Hello, I'm very pleased to introduce this Puje Super T trumpet to my trumpet family. This is a horn that was built for me by Brent Peters out in Palouse, Washington. So Pujes were originally made by a man named Bobby DiNicola, and I reviewed one of his horns. I used to own one. The video's on my channel somewhere. But the name Puje was bought by Brent Peters after Bobby DiNicola died, and now he makes these horns all by himself out in Palouse, Washington. And what makes a Puje is that it has this slide that tunes the entire horn. As you can see, it looks like a first valve slide, but it's actually connected to the bell. So the entire horn goes down when you pull it out, and the first valve slide's over here. That's not adjustable while you're playing. Otherwise, it's basically a trumpet. It takes a trumpet mouthpiece, which in this case is a Lotus 3M. Has a trumpet valve cluster. These are Getzen valves and Getzen slides, so they're really great. This is, one of the most well-known valve clusters in the trumpet world. So yeah, it's basically just a trumpet. So one thing that makes this horn special, the reason why it's called Super T, is because it has an Olds Super cornet bell. And you can see that's the Olds Super. It has this really cool tone ring, and it says Olds Super, made in Fullerton, California. So Brent got a few of these, I think 5 or so, of these new old stock Super bells. So these were made sometime in the 70s maybe, but were never mounted. So Brent bought them and has figured out a design to make a really cool lead focused, but I would say that it's actually just an all-around trumpet as opposed to a more cornetty, flugelhorny thing. So this is definitely an all-around instrument that is totally capable of playing lead and loud pop commercial music in addition to all other styles. One of my favorite features of this horn are these really cool valve buttons that Brent made. He makes these valve buttons himself. I chose the Amolite stones, but when you buy a horn from him, you can get a whole array of stones. He sent me some pictures of all the options, but I went with these Amolite because not too often do you see orangey red, sort of marbly textured valve buttons on a horn. So I think it's just really cool and classy. I'm not being too flashy. He also lets you choose the weight of the valve caps. I went with the heavy ones. Yeah, so there are all sorts of customizabilities you can do with these horns. Another example would be the water keys. So I went with the Carol Brass Amatos, and I like the Carol Brass ones, and Brent does too, because they are really easy to unscrew. Like, you don't need any tools. You just twist it off with your hand. But you can also get just, normal lever style water keys, or different brands of Amatos, such as Getzen. And a cool feature with this horn is that there's also a water key on this bell tuning slide, because with this tight bend, water collects there. So cleverly, there's just a little water key, and if there's still water stuck, you can just twist it around and the water dumps out the bell. If you ever played French horn, that's you have to do that a lot. I used to be a French horn player primarily, so, it reminds me of home when I have to do that. So I guess just some other features. I think I mentioned that these are 460, just as normal trumpet valve block, 460 bore. However, at the bell tail, it's a 453, so that's a little bit smaller, in addition to these tight bends. And it's got a fully rounded tuning slide. Brent has one of these himself that he originally had a D-shaped tuning slide, but he brought this horn to a couple of my gigs. I tried both of the tuning slides, and I found that I just preferred the rounded one, so we went forward with this design. And Brent is just a great guy to work with, because, these horns are really, he builds them one at a time, and he builds them for you. So if you want anything specific on it, he's probably more than happy to do it, such as these heavyweight rings, like this pinky ring, this third slide ring, the first, or I guess the bell tail slide. These really heavy, solid feeling rings, they just feel so nice in the hand. It makes the horn feel special. Yeah, Brent is he's quite the craftsman, and he has amazing attention to detail. Like, just look at these solders and these braces, they're really cool. And this brace goes straight from the valves to the bell. There's no brace between the valves and the lead pipe. And that design choice is intentional, and maybe it has to do with the resonance of the horn and all sorts of things like that. This horn is in raw brass, but Brent puts a some sort of nano coating over it, so it kind of maintains that brushed, clean look. It's starting to patina just a little bit on parts of the bell and where my fingers touch it around the valve casings, but I'm fine with that. Like, I like raw brass because you can see all of the different metals that these horns are made out of, all the nickel and the brass and the tone ringer on the bell. And I also like how they look when they get patinaed. So this is all good for me, but he can make them in any finish, whether it's lacquer or he can send it off to Anderson for plating. But yeah, just a beautiful horn. It's just so cool having a one-of-one hand-built horn. And it plays just super great in all sorts of scenarios. And he markets this as a commercial lead trumpet, but in my opinion, it's an all-around trumpet, and I would choose this for any of the playing that I'm doing over any of my other horns. I think it has a really great sound profile. It has a really lovely shimmer to the sound, in my opinion. It feels pretty much the same to play in all registers, which is something that I love about it. You know, like some horns, when you get above high C or above high G, the slots feel really slippery and you're like, you have to guess a little bit and just like hope. But on this horn, like all of the slots feel large and defined at all registers, which is something that, or at least all registers that I can play in, which is something that I really love about this horn and is a welcome change to most of the other trumpets that I have. So up and down, it just feels so centered and so resonant, and it's just really fun to play. I'd say it feels more efficient than just tight. Doesn't take much air at all to make the horn speak. That's playing like as quietly as I can. Super fast response, and that's something that I really love in a trumpet. I love one that feels compact in terms of the blow and feels efficient, but also responds quickly. There are lots of horns that feel very open, such as a Wild Thing. I've played a Wild Thing. I have a few horns over there that have a more open blow, and they respond really quickly, but they don't feel as efficient. And this has, in my opinion, the benefit of both. It feels really efficient, and it responds really quickly. And I'm playing it super lightly. You can tell how good the response is. The valves are really great. So yeah, this is just the most special horn I've ever owned. And I can't wait to play this on my gigs and to keep playing it in the future. So thanks a lot, Brent, for building this spectacular horn. I really appreciate it.